AEW being your guys, but you don't have like your top guys in your main events, your top guys in your mid level, and your top guys in your openers. So like it's just tough for them, and they're just not utilizing the players they have, and they keep signing more players, but not utilizing what they should.
Yeah, I almost think Tony Khan he might just look at it kind of like a big toy box, and he's like, oh, I'm going to get more toys for my toy box. And it's like, yeah, but you're not playing with these other toys. You can't, you have to almost deal with them like a child. Like, you're not playing with these toys, so until you start playing with these toys, don't get new toys. Like, that's just kind of how this works.
Yeah, but also the business model here is if he locks down those toys, they can't go to WWE either. So.
Well, yeah, that's true too. But the problem is, yeah, they're getting paid checks, but I mean, it's the same thing when WWE had a giant roster as well. A lot of those guys and girls weren't getting any screen time, so they're just collecting paychecks and getting free meals at catering, which some of them, I'm sure that's fine, but I'm guarantee there's a lot of them that just think, well, yeah, I want this. Like, look at Matt Cardona. Matt Cardona, when he left, like, he wasn't getting utilized all that much. Yeah, they'd bring him out every once in a while, but for the most part, he wasn't getting used in WWE. They release him, and then he is a bigger star now than when he left because he just went and got on that grind, became the belt collector for as long as he did, and then obviously he's been killing it with his action figure situation and his podcast. So kudos to him, and he is definitely one that people can look at and be like, all right, if I'm getting released from here, I'm going to do that.
Right. Yeah, he's a good model for indie stuff to like kind of get yourself over and doing those things with. So it's good for him and all that stuff. But man, everybody's main goal is to get to the big league on TV.
Of course.
And you want to be used, you want to be utilized and stuff, but again, it's like going from high school football to college ball to NFL, right? There's just the level of different talents there that, yeah, I mean, even for me, I was great in high school, decent in college, but not good enough to be NFL. Like, even just hearing that come from me, it's like, wow, you weren't good enough to be NFL. Yeah, that's the point. There's just that different type of level of talent that you come across in those different levels. So, not everybody can get utilized. You go to, because you can get to the NFL and still not play down. I mean, crazy, but that's just how it is.
Very true. Now, when you made the transition over from football to pro wrestling, what was your headspace like? Was it kind of a last resort? Was it, I'll give it a try? Was it one of those, well, I've always been a fan, so I want to actually do this? Or how did your mindset go?
I wasn't getting into pro wrestling after football. That was not my plan. I was not going to do it. This was not my thing. I went and did pro powerlifting for about 7 years or so.
Oh, okay.
I'm off to do some like bodybuilding and stuff. I was going to try to do that, and then ended up being a pro powerlifter for about 7 years. And then I retired from that, and then wasn't going to do anything, and then happened to fall into pro wrestling again. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll give it a try, and then ended up giving it a try.
So I read that you were trained by Necro Butcher, and I know a lot of people may not know that name, but Necro Butcher, I mean, I was a fan of him through Ring of Honor, and he was doing things that just people weren't at the time, and he always wrestled barefoot in jeans and a T-shirt, which I always thought was hilarious. I remember seeing him, I think it was one of the Supercard of Honors. He did literally a superplex onto the floor, and I was like, why would you even take that bump? It just makes no sense to me. But that's the way Necro Butcher was. Now, for those that haven't heard of Necro Butcher, how would you describe him?
Necro's probably like the first like legit deathmatch dude who was doing deathmatch before that was a thing. Right. This dude would do hardcore stuff that I'd never even seen before. He wrestled without his shoes because he lost his fucking boots. That was the point. He just lost his fucking boots. Man, he had at one point in time he had his hair set on fire. There's a bunch of crazy shit he's done. He's just kind of like let shit evolved where it evolved. And so I trained with him and my dad when they were, and whenever they have breaks, I'd get in there and do my thing with them and whatnot. And my dad was trained by Killer Tim Brooks, so all stiff, completely stiff. Oh. none of that stuff bothers me now. Cause like everybody's like, oh, these people are stiff. Oh, this ring hurts. This ring stiff. Like, none of that shit bothers me at all because of the way the way I grew up. But Necro is one of those dudes that's like if a dude who was like a lead singer of a death metal band decided to do pro wrestling, that's what this motherfucker would be. Like he's such an intelligent dude. He's well put together outside of the ring. It's a crazy like two-faced coin there. But yeah, he was one of those dudes that were innovating hardcore wrestling into something that would eventually get into deathmatch stuff that was a little bit more nuanced in the States. And he'd bring that kind of energy and nuance to these places around here in the States that was just not seen before. So he's one of those guys.
Yeah, all of that was 100% because he was a very smart dude, but yeah, he was definitely doing like almost Nick Gage type stuff before Nick Gage was really doing what he did.
Yeah, for sure, I'd agree with that.
Now, what did you learn the most training under Necro?
I think the most that I've learned is like the selling is probably the one thing. I'm a great seller in regards to like basically telling the story and how things progress and work. And, you got to be able to make the people believe that there's either a chance for this babyface to win or to show that you're damaged enough to be able to lose. And you got to be able to reiterate these storytelling things into the crowd with, the nuances like what's happening and unfolding instead of just like throwing shit together. So you watch Necro work and sell, like it's, you believe he's getting hurt. You just know that he's a tough motherfucker. So.
Now, you said it multiple times already. Your dad was a pro wrestler. What was his wrestling name, and where all did he wrestle at?
Bobby Too Bad, and a lot of that stuff was in Texas around Lufkin and all these different places. Houston mainly. He did wrestle for NWA Texas for a little bit. Was the NWA Texas Tag Champ for a little while there, and so like several different places that have changed over the years, but mostly around in Texas. He's one of those guys that was the Western shooter. So you want to get into a shoot style wrestling match here, he'd be your guy. Instead, he just want to wrestle. Want to do some bumping, want to do some wrestling. And, I wouldn't say he's known for being stiff, but, it's kind of one of those things he's kind of known for being a little stiff. And, when people find out that he's my dad, it's like, oh shit. Now it makes sense. So. Good,
not to say that you're stiff by any means.
No, I'm not. Yeah, sure.
Now, the world of powerlifting is an interesting one because I think if it wasn't for like certain people that like I don't think people would really think about it too much because they usually do think about the bodybuilders or like sometimes they would see the competitions on ESPN, usually with the Stones or whatever. Like Eddie Hall obviously is one of the biggest ones. So what was that world like compared to, I guess, going from football to powerlifting? Obviously you're spending, I guess, more time in the gym and then more time eating as well. Like, what was the training situation? What's the difference between being a football player and then going to powerlifting?
Now, see, the main difference here is, the training is virtually almost the same. It's just the type of training you're doing in that time frame. So you're less conditioning style training that you'd have in football. You replace it with more compound lift stuff and nuance. But I trained more like like a hybrid type powerlifter. So I had a lot of strongman implements in my off season. Because there's a means to ends with these things that build up your limit strength. So whenever you go to peak for those powerlifting meets, you get all the bits and nuance out of your strength for that one meet in that one weekend, that one day. So you have your time frames to eat for like football. I don't even remember eating as much as I have been for college as I used to for football because it was not as organized. Like I didn't have like prep meals. I would just like eat, my lunches, my stuff after practice, breakfast, stuff like that. But getting into bodybuilding, I had to eat every 2 hours, every 2.5 hours. So that's around 6 to 8 meals, sometimes 9, just depending on when I go to bed and stuff. So that initially had to carry over into powerlifting because I had to eat to get ready for these workouts that were about as intense as a football practice was. It's just that, I train a lot differently than most people. They have like a limit to like, all right, well, I'm done for the day. Like I don't have that kind of limit. I have to be on a specific program schedule to tell me like this is the upper echelon of what I need to do for the day. I can't go any farther than that and this is my next workout for the next day. Otherwise, I would just go as hard as possible, as long as possible. That does not translate as well in the long term because you can only do it for so long. And everybody who does, you really just can't train like I do. It's not feasible. And I figured that out. I want to say after around my first year of getting into powerlifting, that it just was not, it wasn't gonna pan out. So, after my like 6th meet or so, while I was definitely progressively getting better, my body was progressively getting way more sore, getting harder to recover. And at that time I got a coach named Josh Bryant, under his tutelage that, guided me to, doing recovery the proper way and resting and doing different cycles of like, heavy, medium heavy, lighter, and then kind of taking like a deload, week off and then kind of starting over again. Getting that cycle of like, up and down, up and down, up and down for your training was a lot more progressive than what I was doing, which was just basically like balls to the wall all the fucking time. So,
right. Now, going from powerlifting to pro wrestling, obviously you're including the cardio back in. Do you kind of still take the same mindset of making sure you're taking the recovery and doing certain days or certain things on certain days?
And now, see, my recovery is probably more important for wrestling than it is for powerlifting because of just the strain it puts on at least now, because my powerlifting kind of ruined my body to begin with, my joints and all that stuff, and I have a lot more issues than I'd care to say. But my recovery is forefront for everything in pro wrestling because essentially I don't necessarily have to run too much in pro wrestling. There are some quick action things that do happen. So I have more conditioning as like the forefront. My recovery is the main thing. And then like my compound list and all that other stuff is really kind of like secondary or last. It's not a necessity. I'm already jacked. I'm already big. I don't necessarily have to get any stronger per se here. But it's more like a maintenance type deal, but it's really all more conditioning and recovery. So the more I can recover from the weekend, from my workouts, the more I can get ready for the next match. And that's more important for me at my point in time in my life. But that's not the case for everyone.
Love that. So take us through your recovery. What kind of recovery do you do now?
Oh, I stay out the gym. I stay in my fucking bed. I'll eat. Anything that's not pro wrestling, really. So, Mondays I usually don't do anything at all and just like kind of relax. Make sure I get my food in. I may or may not go to the sauna, right, to get some land. But I generally try not to do anything physical whatsoever by Monday. Or Sunday if I don't do a show Sunday. One of the two, and then do my compound list the next day, accessories the next day after that, conditioning stuff, and then another day off. Usually I try to get in before I go into my shows for the weekend.
Very nice. Now, obviously, as much as this is a physical sport, it's also a mental one as well. What kind of mental workouts do you try to keep yourself doing?
I'm a big believer in doing some meditation work and being able to be centered with yourself. So I have sometimes there's a bit of mindfulness apps that you can use, and different things just give you some time to have